What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Titletown Talk. I'm your host, Ian Ewing. Happy Friday. I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday. I know we did. And we as Packer fans also, we got ourselves a gift last night from Max Brosmer and the Minnesota Vikings, or depending on your preference, Brian Flores. The Packers have officially clinched a playoff berth. Not the way we drew it up, but the way this season's gone, I think we'd all take it, I would hope. So we're going to talk through the playoff scenarios at the end of the episode after we preview the Ravens game. But let's start there with the Ravens. This will be a bit of a shorter episode today. I know you guys are probably all still busy with holiday stuff, so I don't want to drown you with a 40-minute episode. But looking at the Ravens overall, they're currently 7-8. They have a plus 11 point differential, which is, it kind of makes their expected win total about 8. So it would appear that they're pretty much on brand with that. They're at 7 wins. DVOA-wise, they're right in the middle of the pack on offense and defense. It's 16th on offense, 16th on defense. Of note, their passing DVOA is 18th. Their rushing DVOA is 5th. So their rushing DVOA is, again, pretty solid overall. They're a good running team, and thanks in large part to Derrick Henry. And as we'll talk about in a minute, it's not so much Lamar Jackson this year. On defense, they have the 19th overall passing defense on DVOA. So again, I think you can dice up this team in the passing game, and they have the 9th best rushing defense in DVOA. So, again, if we look at traditional rankings, they're 13th in points per game, 16th in points per game allowed in defense. So they're, again, just right in the middle of the pack. In terms of their passing defense, that's where it gets really rotten. They have a 242 yard per game average giving up on defense. So, again, very up and down team. They started their season out 1-5. And if you guys might remember that, Lamar Jackson got hurt in that stretch as well. And there were a lot of people who, myself included, by the way, thought they would be the Super Bowl representative in the AFC. They've not been that. Even when they were healthy, they didn't play that well. They had a brutal start to their season schedule-wise, and you would think at some point some of those games would go their way, but they just didn't. However, they did turn it around a little bit. They got all the way to 6-5, and then they got sloppy again, and here we are at 7-8. Let's dig into their roster a bit. Start with their offense. Start with their top 5 on offense from PFF. DeAndre Hopkins is their highest graded player. Now, as you guys probably have figured out, if you have PFF, I don't put all their top 5 on here. I usually just include their starters or their impact players, not the ones that play a fraction of the snaps or whatever. But I did want to put Hopkins on here. He has an 83 grade. He is just a really clutch player this year for them. Last season, he was pretty clutch too. Again, he's not a dynamic receiver anymore. He's not fast. He wasn't really fast to begin with. But this year, he's just been kind of a guy who he can win in contested catches situations. That's always been what he's best at. And against the Packers, corners who have really bad ball skills, it's a bit of a concern for me. But he's got about 300 yards on the season and just over 300 snaps. So he's certainly he's not lighting the world on fire, but in the snaps he's played well. Tyler Linderbaum, their center, is their second-ranked player, 79.4 grade. He's fantastic. He's a free agent after this year. I doubt he hits the market. I bet the Ravens re-sign him, but you never know. Their their roster overall is a bit top-heavy. They don't have a lot of money to spend, from my knowledge. This is a guy, if you're the Packers, who you put on a credit card if you can. Now, if they do sign him, that would take away a comp pick for all the players they're losing. But there's plenty of time to discuss that. But he's 25 years old. He's probably the best center in the NFL at this point, probably behind Creed Humphrey. Zay Flowers is their third-ranked player. He's a wide receiver. He has a 76.9 grade. Zay Flowers is a fun player. He's on my fantasy team. Now, he has had some big drops this year. Excuse me. Bit of a fumbling problem here and there, but he's a good player. One-on-one against the Packers corners, it's a concern for me. He's a really good route runner. He's super shifty. He can make people miss. Now, granted, Packers are pretty good at tackling. He's a pretty good yard after catch guy. But again, I think him versus Keyshawn might present a few problems. So they got to keep an eye on Zay Flowers. Ronnie Stanley, their tackle, is their 4th-ranked player, 74.1. And then 5th is Derrick Henry, their running back, 72.7. Another fantastic season for Henry. Future Hall of Fame running back. I think he's still the most gifted running back I've ever seen. Either him or Adrian Peterson. But statistically, I think Henry's faster than Peterson, and he's a bigger running back in general. He's still fast as hell, super physical. The only difference this year is he's had a lot of fumbles. And there's one of them earlier in the season, I cannot remember who it was against. It cost him a game. So that's a concern if you're the Ravens. They have fumbled away a few games this season, and he was a big reason for that. Big storyline on offense for the Ravens is Lamar Jackson. He is currently doubtful. I'm recording this at 11:20 a.m. on Friday. So there's a chance that when we get closer to game day, maybe he plays. But if you list a guy as doubtful, that means they only have a 25% chance of playing. So those of you that don't know, he had a back injury. He left the game last week with a back injury. After the game, he said that it was painful to get downstairs after the game. So I highly doubt that he's going to play. And if he does, he's not going to be 100%, that's for sure. This is a must-win game for the Ravens, so you have to think that if he wakes up feeling better on Saturday, maybe he gives it a go. But it sounds like we're going to be seeing our boy Tyler Huntley at quarterback. We all know that Lamar can run the ball, but so can Tyler Huntley. He's one of the better backups in the NFL over the past 5 years. In the games he's played this season, he's got a 73 grade from PFF, which would put him in the top 5 for the Ravens. If you look at the 73 grade overall, that would put him in the middle of the pack in the NFL total. He's just not Lamar, right? He's a bit inaccurate. He's not a great processor of the field. He's got a pretty average arm, slightly above average, I would say. And again, he's not Lamar Jackson. He does have some legs on him. The dude can run. And I do think that, if Lamar were to play, I'd be more worried about Huntley's legs than Lamar's. I mean, Lamar has only carried the ball 63 times this season, which is probably a low for him. It has to be. And even with a Micah Parsons-less defense, I think that Halfley can bottle up Huntley. He's only gotten one turnover-worthy play this season, so he's not very erratic with the football. But he also doesn't have any big-time throws. He has one. So nothing crazy from Tyler Huntley. We'll talk about him in a minute, but that's going to be their quarterback in this game. Derrick Henry in their running game, that's the biggest threat for the Packers in this one. Or against the Packers, I should say. Stopping Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell, who's their backup, that's the highest priority for the Packers in this one. When we look at who they have for weapons, who their passing threats are, we talked about Zay Flowers, we talked about DeAndre Hopkins. They also have Rashad Bateman. He's a good player, not a great player. I don't even know if he's good. He's solid. Certainly nobody you need a game plan for, but he does run some good routes. He's got long arms. He can catch the ball. The thing that I thought was weird this week, and you hear a lot of stuff when you're playing uncommon opponents, but I've heard a couple people this week, smart people, by the way, who've compared the Packers receiver room to the Ravens. There's no universe where they're even close to as good as each other. I think Zay Flowers would be the Packers' number 2 behind Watson. Maybe you could argue Jaden Reed and him are close, but in this offense, the reason Zay Flowers gets so many targets is because there's not a lot of other guys. This Packers receiving core is much better than the Ravens. It's not even close. As far as other wide receiver, they have Tez Walker. He's a rookie as well. Not super concerned about him. Their tight ends, though, can be a little bit scary. They have Mark Andrews at tight end. He's a little bit on the older side. Definitely had a down year overall. He's had some fumbling issues, some drop issues. I think he had a fumble last week. I believe that was the one where Kayvon Chason came up behind him and stripped him. I think that was Mark Andrews. But again, you guys know, we've talked about it in every episode where they play a good tight end. The Packers struggle covering tight ends. It's frustrating. It seems like it's been that way my whole life. They also have Isaiah Likely, who, yes, that's a real name, by the way. He hasn't had a catch in 3 weeks. I know he had an injury earlier this season, but he's super athletic. He's a bit of a matchup nightmare. Am I concerned about him? Not necessarily, but again, as much as I like Quay Walker and even Edge Cooper, I don't like them in coverage very much, especially Isaiah McDuffie. So I do think there's an opportunity there for the Ravens to maybe take advantage of a mismatch in the tight end game, but we'll see. Key number 1 for beating the Ravens on defense is stopping the run. It's that simple. Even in the games that the Ravens have lost this season, Derrick Henry's played well, including last week, by the way. The game plan should be super simple on defense for the Packers, and it should stop right here. I could just do key number 1, and that's it. If you stop Derrick Henry, and if Tyler Huntley has to throw the ball 30 times, the Ravens are going to lose. It's that simple. Now, if Tyler Huntley comes out and balls out, throws for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, whatever, against this Packers defense, they're just not as good as we thought they were. And we're going to be talking about a lot of problems. And we're probably going to be talking about a first-round exit unless that offense can go bonkers. But we'll see. This Ravens running game is good. Again, DVOA-wise, they're 5th. As far as the Packers' defensive line goes, that's the biggest mismatch in the Ravens' favor in this one, is the interior of the Ravens' offensive line versus the Packers' interior and defense. Jordan Riley, their newly acquired defensive tackle, we talked about him as a player of the game last week. Thought he played well. Colby Wooden played decent as well. But the Packers holding up front is a big concern of mine. If this game is constant 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and the Ravens are able to just hand it off in those short yardage situations, the Ravens are going to have the upper hand. I do trust Jeff Hafley to put up a pretty good plan here, and I do think if they can just hold Derrick Henry under, I would even say under 120 yards, keep his average around 4 to 5, I don't think that Tyler Huntley can do enough to win this game. Key number 2, shut down the quarterback run game. If for some reason Lamar plays, I highly doubt it. That's why it's doubtful. I do think there's a world where, Tyler Huntley could, throw for 200. Again, I really don't want to say that out loud. It's probably not likely, but I am concerned about his legs. Even in the game the Packers played against them in 2021, if you guys remember that game, the Packers were winning by 14 in the fourth quarter. This is 2021. Aaron Rodgers had him up 28-14, I believe, or something like that. And then the Ravens came back because of Huntley and his legs. And the only reason the Packers won, it was 31-30, was because the Ravens went for a 2-point conversion and didn't get it. So, again, you got to give the Packers credit for holding the line there. But Tyler Huntley can win on the ground. Now, that was the Joe Barry defense, I believe. Yes, that was Joe Barry. Joe Barry's first season. So you can't say you felt too good about it in the first place. But the only way for the Ravens to really do well on offense is if Derrick Henry's tearing it up and if Tyler Huntley's, break and contain when the backs are turned and getting a first down. Now, Hafley, in his tenure, has done a pretty damn good job at bottling up quarterbacks. We haven't seen any quarterback run game nightmares like the Kaepernick performance back in the playoffs in 2012, which I still remember the horror of that game. And they've played a lot of quarterbacks that could do it too. So I do think Hafley's done a good job of that. He's going to have to do it again in this one. If you make Huntley beat you from the pocket, he's just not going to. Not enough to keep up with this Packers offense. Key number 3, this one I threw it on here, get off the field on 3rd down. The Ravens are 16th in the league this year on 3rd down conversion percentage, so middle of the pack, just like everything else in their team. This is another important area where Green Bay has the advantage. Now, when they lost Micah, I said it on this podcast 2 weeks ago, I'm concerned about the Packers' 3rd down defense. Because as you guys know, when Micah was coming at you on 3rd down, even just the threat of Micah would get a one-on-one with somebody, and they were getting pressure. Last week, though, again, not having him, I was massively concerned about this. Caleb went 1 for 11 on 3rd down at one point. I think it ended up being like 4 for 16 or something. I don't know. At one point, though, the Bears were 1 for 11 on 3rd down. And if you can carry that over in this game, it all comes down to short down and distances. If they can make it 3rd and 5 plus, and the Packers can do what they did last week, I'm going to be really, really happy with that, and I'm going to be I won't have any concern about this Ravens offense. Let's flip it over. Packers offense versus Ravens defense. This is where the big mismatch is in the Packers' favor. The Packers passing game against this Ravens defense. On the Ravens defense, their top 5, Kyle Hamilton, their safety, has an 88 grade. He's the best safety in the NFL, in my opinion. He might be the best secondary player in the NFL. They use him in every imaginable way. They blitz him. He plays the slot. He's played outside a couple times at corner, which is crazy. Normally in like zone situations, I believe. I saw it in one of the games earlier this year. He shoots gaps in the run game. He's just good in coverage. He's just an ultimate Swiss Army knife, quite frankly. He can play the box safety role as well. You have to know where he is at all times. He's just a really, really, really good player. And the Ravens just extended him. They have a really, really good safety room, and we'll talk about the other guy in a minute. Number 2 is Roquan Smith, the former Bear linebacker. He has a 76.6. He's a phenomenal run defender. Chidobe Awuzie, their cornerback. He had a 76 grade this year, 78 coverage grade. He is the sole reason why Jair Alexander is not on the Ravens anymore. Simple as that, because Awuzie actually played really well for them this year, and you can see it in the grade. He's done well. Travis Jones, their defensive tackle, is their 4th ranked player, 76.4. They just extended him. The same draft in 2022 where the Packers got Devontae Wyatt, I was in love with Travis Jones. I thought he was the guy to pick at the end of the first round. He's younger, a bit more pass rush upside. But, I've been really happy with the Wyatt pick. But he's got 38 pressures this year. He's been a really good player for them. And then Alohi Gilman, their safety, he splits time. I think he plays more like box safety robber. safety. He has a 70.4 grade. He has a lot of snaps. That's why I put him in the top 5. They use Malachi Starks and Kyle Hamilton as their primary safeties, but the thing is they move Hamilton around so much that when Hamilton's not playing traditional safety, Gilman jumps back and plays it. He's a good player. Defensive line, though, is very much missing a top pass rusher. They have Justin Metabuike. He was supposed to be that guy. He was that guy in 23. He's out for the season. Travis Jones has been good, not great. Nobody else has really stepped up on their defense this year. It's just that simple. Now, they drafted Mike Green in the second round, and if you guys listen to my draft coverage, you guys know I loved Mike Green. I had several people message me about him in the draft process saying that the Packers should pick him. He fell to the second round because of character concerns and maybe some size concerns, but he's been pretty good for them this year in pass rush. Now, he's got a 44 overall grade. He's been very inconsistent even as a pass rusher, but I do find it interesting. They did trade away Odafe Owe to the Chargers early in the season, mid-season. Kyle Van Noy, their other pass rusher, has been bad this year. And I think they just extended him, I'm pretty sure. He's only got 25 pressures this season. They're just not a good pass rushing team. The only way they get pressure is doing it the way the Packers have had to do it too. They have 240 pressures, which sounds like a lot, and it is. But they're not doing it by having one, guy in the pass rush game. And I think that's why the Packers are going to have a strong advantage in this game. There just isn't that one guy. There's not even a Montez Sweat in this game that we had against the Bears last week. There's not that guy. There's not an Aiden Hutchinson in this game. So I do think this is going to be an advantage. Their front seven overall, again, solid. You got a game plan around it. In terms of the run game, they're a good run defense, but they're not going to kill you in the pass game. Secondary-wise, that's where they're really good. Kyle Hamilton, Malachi Starks from Georgia. He's had a really nice rookie season. They have Nate Wiggins. He was a former first-rounder. He hasn't played that well this season. But then you get to the main guy that has completely pooped the bed this year for them, Marlon Humphrey, their corner. He was at one time like a top 3 corner in the league. He has been really bad this season. He's got a 48 grade. He's got like a 60 coverage grade. They've had to play a ton of zone defense. They do play a ton of zone defense because their corners have been bad this year. And when you have 3 safeties that are good and linebackers who can cover, which they do, it makes a lot of sense to play zone. So, again, am I massively concerned about this Ravens defense? I'm not. However, they still have a ton of talent, and they have really good coaches on that team, right? So, key number 1 for the game, convert in the red zone. The red zone has been the bugaboo for the Packers in the last 2 games. They've had stretches this season where they were really bad. Look no further than the Eagles game, the Panthers game specifically, right? The Ravens have the 6th best red zone defense this year. And I would put it in large part due to Kyle Hamilton and Malachi Starks and the linebackers as well, right? The Packers have got to do better in the red zone. Since that Broncos game started, really, since the beginning of that game, they've been abysmal in the red zone. If their red zone offense was just, 20% better, they win probably both the Broncos game and the Bears game. Certainly win the Bears game if they just convert 1 of their 5 red zone trips last week. Whether it's penalties or just missing throws, bad mistakes, whatever it is, right? They just have to be better in this game. They have to take advantage. If they get down there inside the 20, they got to finish the damn drive. They're going to be able to move the ball on this team. I can promise you guys that. I have zero concern the Packers are going to move the ball. You got to finish. I could not find what the Ravens' explosive play rate allowed is in this season, but when you watch their games, they're getting dusted deep several times. I mean, Joe Burrow tore them up. I believe Aaron Rodgers tore them up deep with DK. So I do think you can win on some of the deep routes. I think Christian Watson's got an advantage in this game, whether it be a size advantage against Nate Wiggins or a speed advantage against Humphrey. The Packers are going to try to get one-on-ones in this game, and I think they need to take advantage when they do. Key number 2, don't make stupid mistakes. You could put this you could copy and paste this into every game plan, so I know I'm not breaking any news here, but you're playing a backup quarterback, so no interceptions on offense, no stupid penalties, whether it be offense or defense, by the way, no 60-yard pass interference penalties, right? And then no drops. Just make it a clean game. Packers are the better team as of now, right? They certainly played better the last couple weeks, despite the 0-2 record. They could be easily 2-0. They haven't played a sloppy game from front to back since the Eagles game. This is not the game for that to rear its ugly head. The only way the Packers lose this game is if they lose the turnover battle. Giving Tyler Huntley the ball at the 40 or the 30, their Packers 40 or 30. That's the only way you lose this game. So I want to see a complete game front to back. Don't make any stupid mistakes. If you both have a turnover, fine, but don't give the Ravens free opportunities. It's just that simple, right? Key number 3, I wanted to throw this one on here. I want to see continued growth from the offensive line. Again, you guys know I've been saying this since January last year when I started this podcast. I don't know that much about offensive line play. I'm learning more about it as I've watched more All 22 to prep for these podcasts, but I know the Bears aren't good on the defensive line, but last week they played a hell of a game, the Packers offensive line did. Sean Ryan played his best game at center. Jordan Morgan started at right tackle in place of Zach Tom, and I want to stop here quick and talk about Jordan Morgan. I was going back and forth with a Packer fan, by the way, on Twitter, and he was saying, Jordan Morgan sucks, man. It's like, first of all, you don't watch tape. I don't even know what I'm talking about with offensive line. Jordan Morgan has not been good at guard. But this preseason, if you guys remember, he was the highest graded tackle in the NFL in preseason. Jordan Morgan, whether you guys like it or not, whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. He's going to be their left tackle next season. That's why they drafted him in the first round. They didn't draft him to be a guard. Rasheed Walker will not be back next season. For us to see a game where we saw Jordan Morgan play very well outside of one bad rep against Montez Sweat, which it sounded like he was supposed to have chip help there. Again, these are offensive line people that are saying this, not me. You have to be encouraged. And Jordan Morgan and Anthony Belton, if there's one thing we take away from this end of the season, we need to see both of them playing well, because next season they're going to be the most important players on this offense. So again, seeing Jordan Morgan play well at right tackle, that was massive. Anthony Belton played well at guard. Rasheed Walker had his best game at tackle, right? They just played really, really well on the offensive line last week. And if you can carry this over and you can do it going into the playoffs, this offense can really take another step. I mean, Emmanuel Wilson was one of my players of the game last week, right? But if you guys watch the tape, what did he really do on some of those runs? Like, he had holes and holes and holes to run through, like massive holes. So if you can show up against a better run defense this week on offense, and if you can protect against the blitz, if you can communicate your protections this week against, again, they're not a scary defensive line, but they do get some pressures, right? You got to feel really, really good about going into the playoffs for the Packers. Key number 4, who's playing quarterback for the Packers? We don't know. Jordan Love is not cleared concussion protocol yet, but he did practice basically in full the last couple days. He did not, he was limited. That's what LaFleur always says. Limited can mean anything, right? That's why these designations are so dumb for practice. We did find out, and I'm sure that Christian Watson wasn't supposed to say this, but Clayton Tune, who's their third stringer, did not take a single practice rep with the first team. And Willis yesterday was out with an illness. So that means Jordan Love took all the reps. I found out or read this morning from Packers.com. He's not having any sensory issues with light, which is one of the things that I think that's why Josh Wiley didn't play last week. He was still getting headaches from light. So you got to think Jordan's going to play in this game. We did find out this week too. Both are listed as questionable, but if it's not Jordan Love, it's going to be Malik Willis. So we're not going to see Clayton Tune versus Tyler Huntley in this game. Jordan, if he's there, he's healthy, their game plan should be drop back, pass, throw it 30 damn times in this game and dice up the secondary. Objectively, they've just been bad. Their secondary has been bad in pass coverage. I want to see the Packers test it. I want to see the Packers receivers. They're all healthy. They're all playing well. Go out there and get Matthew Golden on, Marlon Humphrey, or Christian Watson on Nate Wiggins, who's like 5 inches shorter than him. Go out there and absolutely dice this team up. That's what I want to see. If they make a commitment to throw the ball like crazy in this game, they're going to win. The only way they're going to lose an offense again, outside of making mistakes, is trying to run the ball into a brick wall and not getting anywhere. Now, we did find out Josh Jacobs was a full participant. He's off the injury report. You got to think that's a good sign. But I want to see him throw the ball in this game. Now, if Malik Willis starts, his legs are going to be a factor, right? One of the reasons why he's so successful, and he's not better than Jordan Love, for the love of God. The amount of messages I got this week, I had a coworker talking to me about this. And if you're listening to this, Eric, appreciate you, man, but it's wrong. Malik Willis is not better than Jordan Love. He's just not. Jordan Love is a top 5 MVP candidate this season. Had they finished that Broncos game, and if he had finished what he started in that game, he would probably have jumped the Patriots' Drake May. I do think Matt Stafford's going to win it. Objectively, he's just better. But Jordan Love is really good. And anybody who doesn't see that, they're just not watching tape. that said, Malik Willis comes into these games because his legs are such a threat. It's a complete change of game plan from what teams are prepping for with Jordan in there from what they get with Malik Willis. So if Malik comes in, the legs are going to be a factor. They're going to do a lot more of those read options, right? But I think that even still, whoever's playing quarterback, they're going to have receivers open. That all 22, guys, I swear to just, even if you do a trial for NFL Plus, if you're really interested in some of this stuff, pull up the all 22 and just watch how many receivers were wide ass open in that game last week. And this is why it's so funny these Bears fans are so cocky about that game. It's like the Packers not scoring more touchdowns in that game was almost improbable with how many open receivers they had. They had guys open on every 2 to 3 guys open on every play. They should have had a touchdown to Watson on that throw to Musgrave. I know I talked about it in the post-game show. Matt LaFleur has been playing. He has been dialing up some absolute gems the last couple weeks. So as long as they can hold up in pass pro in this game and LaFleur can keep dialing up these wide-ass open receivers, LaFleur's cooking, guys. They're going to do well, whether it's Malik Willis or Jordan Love. Before we get into the prediction, I want to summarize the playoffs, right? The Packers are in the playoffs, guys. They're in the damn playoffs. I certainly got messages from family members saying they're not even going to make the playoffs after they lost that game last week. I know it was tough to watch, right? I'm glad I didn't watch it live. I probably would have spiked a shoe on the ground or something and broke my TV. Who knows, right? I'm being halfway sarcastic. But the Packers are in the playoffs. Now it just depends on which seed they get. And I said it last week, I think it's still entirely possible that they can win the NFC North. Now, I don't know why this is the case, but statistically speaking, they have a 15% chance to win the NFC North. And it's because basically 4 things have to happen. The first thing that has to happen is the Packers have to win on Saturday, tomorrow, obviously. Then the 49ers have to beat the Bears on Sunday Night Football. Both of those things are favored to happen as of now. So if that happens, that means that the Packers will go into next week against the Vikings, and the Bears will go into next week against the Lions, who were just eliminated. If the Packers win and the Lions win, in other words, the Bears lose, the Packers win the NFC North. So again, the Packers are favored next week against the Vikings already. Now, I think the Vikings played really well on defense yesterday. That's why the Lions lost. Brian Flores was just on one. The Vikings only had 6 net passing yards in the game, though. The offense still is not doing well over there in Minnesota, right? It's still going to be a tough game for the Packers, but they're favored to win that game. The 49ers are favored to win the game this week against the Bears. And then next week, I think the Bears will be favored against the Lions, but the Lions are not going to want to go out on a 4-game losing streak next week. And I know for a damn fact that Dan Campbell wants to beat Ben Johnson. So, again, there's a real world where the Packers win the NFC North. 4 things have to happen. 4 things that I think are better than 50% chance that they do. So why are we panicking? We shouldn't be, right? Now, if the Packers do win out and the Bears lose out, that means the Packers would win the division at 11-5. The Bears would get probably the 7th seed at 11-6, which again is much more in line with what we thought was going to happen going into the season. I would probably sub the Lions out instead of the Bears. So again, we're pulling hard for the 49ers this week, and especially if the Packers beat the Ravens. Now, in that scenario, the Packers would end up with the 2nd or 3rd seed, the 2 or the 3. If that happens, the Packers still would want to get the 2 seed. That would essentially guarantee them 2 home games in the playoffs. If they win the first one, they get another one at home. The Eagles have to lose one more game for that to happen. So we're essentially rooting for the 49ers this week, the Bills this week, and obviously the Packers. The Bills play the Eagles. So I think the Packers, if they win out and the Bears lose out, the Packers are the NFC North champions. They're going to be the 2 or the 3. And if it doesn't happen, the Bears win a game or the Packers lose a game, then they would get the 7th seed. They'd be locked into the 7th. Okay? Now, that means they're either going to play one of 3 teams. The Bears, the 49ers, or the Eagles. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Well, let's talk about it now. Why not? If I'm the Packers, I want, and this doesn't matter if it's the 2nd or 3rd seed or the 7th seed, they're going to play one of those 3 teams. Maybe the Rams or the Seahawks if they collapse, which is possible. And if they do collapse, I mean, I'll take them, right? But if I'm the Packers, I want the Bears. I want another shot at them. I'm not remotely afraid of them, whether it's in Chicago or in Green Bay. I think the Packers want to go in there and rip their heads off after what happened last week, right? Then we have the 49ers. Now, I know the 49ers are scary. We have a lot of PTSD as Packer fans because, the 49ers eliminated us in 2021. We were eliminated in 2023 by the 49ers. It happened in 2019 as well, right? But that 49ers team is, in my opinion, way overachieving. Defensively, it's completely scheme-related. I think they got some good players over there, not great. I don't know who the hell Brock Purdy's throwing the ball to right now. I mean, they don't have Ayuk. George Kittle's played well. Their offensive line's played pretty well. And then, of course, they have Christian McCaffrey. But the Packers are going to want to go in, and if they play the 49ers, whether it's in San Francisco or in Green Bay, they're going to want to beat the hell out of that team. The guys that are on this team they have not forgotten about 2023. And then the Eagles, they eliminated them last year in the playoffs. And they narrowly beat the Packers this season in the regular season. So I do think whoever they play in that first round, they're not going to be afraid, even if the Packers were to lose out. Now, again, I want that Bears team the most, but we'll see, right? I'm not concerned about any of those three games. I'm going to pick the Packers in either of those two games. Now, granted, unless some big injury happens, which they're screwed anyway, right? Now, what if, here's the last thing we'll talk about and we'll get out of here. What if the Bears win tomorrow night or Sunday night, or the Packers lose tomorrow night, right? That means essentially if the Packers are guaranteed the 7th seed going into week 18, well, then what happens next? The Packers are in the 7th seed regardless. Nothing can change that if the Packers lose again or if the Bears win. So that means we're going to talk the whole week next week about does it make sense to rest some of these starters? Now, I think it does. However, if the Packers lose to the Ravens, if that's how they become the 7th seed, you don't want to go into the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak. You just don't. Now, I guess it depends on who you want to rest. Like, I think Zach Tom, he's hurt. There's a lot of guys I would rest. Josh Jacobs, right? There's going to be a few guys who you're going to want to rest. We'll see, right? We'll see. I think ultimately the 49ers win, the Packers win this week, and then that sets us up for a really, really fun Week 18 where if the Lions win and the Packers win, the Packers are the NFC North champions. And I think that would be, here's a hot take for you guys. I would take the Packers winning the division that way over winning last week against the Bears. Because that would just gut the Bears. For them to collapse the last 2 games and all the shit that they've been talking for like 3 weeks about the NFC North, they just ended up losing it like that. It would be rich. Anyway, prediction in this game, I think the Packers win. 28-23 is my prediction. I think the Packers are going to have control of this game until late. Maybe the Ravens get a late touchdown to make it closer, but I think ultimately the Packers win this game. I think they can win this game on offense alone, but if we see a similar performance to what we did last week against the Bears, we should all be massively encouraged going forward. Appreciate you guys listening. Keep an eye on the injury report today, Friday. We're going to find out today basically if Jordan's going to play tomorrow night or if it's going to be Malik. I think it's going to be Jordan, but we'll see. Keep an eye on the inactives going into the game. It's going to be fun, guys. It's going to be fun. I hope I'm coming at you at the early part of next week with some good news. I'm going to try to have the podcast uploaded on Monday, but we'll see. Regardless, I appreciate you guys listening. Hope you had a great Christmas and holiday, and I'll see you guys next week. Go Pack Go.